Hello, my name is Andrea Stith. I'm the Barron County Extension Agent for Horticulture, and we're here today to do the Master Gardener Monday. This is going to feature pictures and projects that our Barron River Area Extension Master Gardener Association members have been working on. So this first one is actually going to be from the Master Gardener Demonstration Garden, and it is the hollyhock. So if you're looking at the hollyhock, you are going to find that it is an old favorite that was oftentimes found around the foundations of a lot of homes. Now they come in a variety of colors ranging from reds, whites, yellows, burgundies, almost black. The flower can be single or double, and they usually bloom in midsummer and can even be used as cut flowers. They're a bushy green plant with lots of flowers coming up the stalk. They can get fairly tall. And they are one that is traditionally seen as a biennial. That means that when you plant it in your garden from seed the first year, it may not bloom, but then the second year it will bloom. And unfortunately, sometimes the plants would usually die, but they can go to seed and they would reseed, and that would basically be the restart of the plant's life cycle. There are some newer varieties that are considered to be perennial. So they may survive more than 1 year, 2 years, and they're going to go on and come back for you. If you remove the flowers right after they're done blooming, this will give the plants a better chance to come back again the next year because they didn't use as much of their energy to store and reproduce those seeds. So make sure you know what kind of a variety that you're getting. They're pretty easy to grow, and your best bet to get started is probably to find a transplant if you're wanting to put those in to go ahead and get that bloom. And you want to plant them in a sunny location, and you want to space them about 3 to 18 inches apart. They will need some water to help them get established, so make sure you're watering them in fairly good when they're new. And then you can use a little bit of fertilizer on them, but they don't really need much. And then you want to give them a good drink a couple of times throughout the summer and watch for some diseases. I know the Master Gardeners last year in the garden actually had a little bit of a rust problem with their hollyhocks, and they removed most of the diseased leaves and used a fungicide and tried to prevent that from coming back this year. So it's really difficult to control kind of once you get it, but if you clean up that plant debris, oftentimes it can reduce the issues, and we haven't seen it appear on this year's blooms and foliage, so that's definitely something that we're very happy with in our garden this year. The portulaca is something that we have seen in the Master Gardener's trial gardens before. What I love about this one is that they actually kind of open up when the sun's out, and then they have a tendency for those flowers to fold up when the sun goes down. So it's kind of interesting to watch. They are a moss rose is another word for them. It's a low growing annual native to South America. They can grow from 8 inches tall, and usually they form about a foot wide mat, kind of being a ground cover for you. There are a variety of flower colors. This one is more of an orange yellow, maybe a little bit of a peach depending on who you talk to. And then there are reds, oranges, yellow, whites, and other pastel colors. They come in single or semi-double and double forms. And the flowers oftentimes don't open on cloudy or rainy days because they like to come out with that sun. And then they actually do close up, like I said, for that sun when it goes down. So it is high drought and heat tolerant. So it needs to be in a well-drained soil. Oftentimes these are seen in some rock gardens. So that's something that if you're looking at doing, you might look at these. And there's something with them, they will self-seed and they can become a little bit invasive. So just kind of make sure you're watching them. But if you deadhead, it will deter that self-seeding. So they don't really do well with transplanting, so make sure that you're very careful and nice to the seedlings when you're transplanting them. Aphids and slugs can occasionally be problems with them, and poorly drained soil may lead to a crown rot issue. So these are actually in my garden out front this year, and I've got several different colors, and I'm kind of exploring them as a ground cover to cover some of the large area that was empty in my garden. Something else that we want to talk about, and this is actually in my backyard, my vegetable garden, but we want to talk about victory gardens. So with everything that's going on in our environment, we are lucky as Americans that we do have a fairly stable food supply. But we want to talk a little bit about how hobby gardeners and things like that can go ahead and grow some additional produce. That way, if your neighbors or people that can't get out during this pandemic time, you may have extra to take them to keep them from having to get out in environments when maybe they shouldn't be. So in the early 1900s, many families really depended on the gardens that they grew in their own backyards. And during the First and Second World Wars, these backyard gardens played a much bigger role in the battle of food insecurity. So victory gardens were actually encouraged by the government, and the University of Kentucky and the Kentucky Department of Ag have actually partnered, and we're kind of encouraging people to go ahead and plant a victory garden this year. So if you want to look into doing that or you have questions about that, please feel free to give us a call. These gardens can be grown in a variety of locations, backyards, window boxes, even if you're wanting to do a container garden, if you only have a couple plants. Just kind of put something out there to make yourself feel that victory of success of growing something for yourself, and also just to encourage the environment to be on a positive outlook. So we definitely want to encourage y'all to do that, and I just wanted to show you all what I've been into. And then we have the Amaryllis plant by Miss Glenda Eaton. She's one of our master gardeners. So it can be grown outdoors, but usually it's not going to come back from year to year in our zone. So we're a zone 6, but Miss Glenda said she's actually had some success with hers coming back. So thought that was kind of interesting and encouraging. So maybe our winters haven't been as harsh as they have been in the past few years, and hers have been coming back, but these also can be grown indoors, and they're very, very beautiful. And she said that her granddaughter actually really loves these, so I wanted to share those with you. And you wanted to make sure if you're planting them outside, you want to select a very sunny spot in the garden that might receive some afternoon shade, but avoid placing them in dried out areas that's going to be too dry all year round. And you want to apply mulch, especially during the fall and winter months. It's going to help keep them safer. But like I said, normally these are not hardy in our zone, but it looks like she's had some success with those. And so we are glad that she has shared that with us. Next, we have some peas that are actually found in the Master Gardener's demonstration garden. So you can see the blooms, and there's a few pods actually on these. I actually ate a couple of these today while I was out in the garden. So like sweet corn, peas are the very tastiest when they are eaten immediately after harvest. So I actually was walking around eating them while I was in the garden, looking at other things. So whether you choose the shell or edible pods, they grow the best during spring and early summer when the temperatures are between 60 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're a little late for planting them now, but I just wanted to show you some of the success that the Master Gardeners have had with their planting, even through all of the COVID-19 pandemic. So how to plant them? Normally they're propagated by seed, and they germinate with temperatures between 40 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's really optimal around that 75 degrees. You're looking at about 9 to 13 days to germination, and it could take a little longer depending on how old the seeds are. And the seeds can usually be saved for up to 3 years, but you may just have a decrease in your germination success. So if you're sowing these, you want to sow them usually in the spring as soon as your soil is ready to be worked, and usually you're looking at late March, early April, depending on how quickly that soil dries out for you from the winter. And peas can be planted whenever it's rather cold out. So they are kind of cold hardy, and they can withstand some frost. They are a little resistant to that freeze, and it can actually increase their production in some instances. You may need to erect a trellis for them. So you'll see these are actually growing on a chicken wire fence that's around our garden. We actually added them to be kind of an eye piece for our garden, to add a little bit of greenery on the edges of our garden. So it's definitely something that you might want to think about. And they can also be planted later in the fall when the temperatures cool back off. Something else that the Master Gardeners have in their demonstration garden that are coming up is the spring radishes. So again, these are planted as early as your soil can be worked, usually in mid-spring. And you want to make succession plantings of those about every 10 to 14 days to keep them coming in. And you want to space them out, but you also may have to thin them out. They can be planted in late winter in a protected cold frame, a window box, or something like that. So if you're looking for something to do later this fall, that might be an option for you. And this is, the ones they have here are actually white radishes. So we thought they were really something unique to try for our group. When you're sowing the seed, you need to put them 1/4 to a 1/2 inch deep. You want to thin the spring varieties to about 1 inch, a 1/2 inch to 1 inch between each plant. And then you have to thin them a little bit later to about 2 to 4 inches. So you give them room to actually grow out. So the care for radishes, they grow well in most any soil that is prepared well and is fertilized before planting and has adequate moisture maintenance. So these are actually on a drip line irrigation system that the Master Gardeners have installed. So their watering is fairly regular and pretty consistent. Harvesting should begin as soon as the roots reach an edible size, and it should be completed quickly before the heat has a chance to hit them and before the seed stalks can actually begin to develop. You want to pull the radishes when they are of usable size and relatively young. They remain in edible condition for only a short time before they become like spongy and pithy. And then proper thinning focuses the harvest. You can actually avoid the disappointing stragglers. If you want to, wait a little while, some of the smaller ones might come in, but make sure that you're getting those out fairly quickly. And then the winter varieties that you can find actually can mature a little more slowly, but they should still be harvested at a large, they can maybe be harvested a little larger size. So if you're looking at doing those in the fall, you can give us a call to learn a little bit more. And we hope that you all think about doing a fall planted garden. So this next one is actually very precious. This is Master Gardener Glenda Eaton's granddaughter, I believe, Emerson, and she's playing in the fairy garden that Miss Glenda made for her. So I thought this was so precious. So you can always get your kids, grandkids involved in gardening in many ways, and fairy gardens have actually come back huge lately. You can find items for them at most any store, including some of the more value-friendly stores. So get out there, check out the fairy garden scene and see if you can't come up with something, and encourage your kids to play outside and play in the gardens. And so I just love to see this one and wanted to share. So then Miss Glenda has shared with us, and actually it was her great-granddaughter. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. So this is actually Emerson sitting in front of her flower bed at her great-grandmother's house, Miss Glenda, and they have peonies that actually came from where her mother lived. So it's pretty cool that you can actually have that attachment to your plants. And so I thought this flower bed picture was just beautiful, and they're out enjoying the outdoors. And I encourage everybody to do that. Just get outside. It can be nice to clear your head. It can give you a nice sense of joy to be out and not be so closed in your house. So make sure that you're getting out, get your hands dirty, and try something new. If you have any projects that you or your family have been working on and you'd like to be featured, please email those pictures to andrea.stith@uky.edu, or you can tag the Barron County Cooperative Extension Facebook page. And I hope you've enjoyed this Master Gardener Monday. Catch you next week with some more pictures and interesting topics.